Welcome to Sightings. I'm Tim White. A ghostly presence on videotape. It's the one piece of hard evidence that's eluded our ghost investigations. Until now. When Sightings received a call from a beleaguered family in the Midwest, our team went to investigate. What they found was haunting activity unlike anything this Sightings crew had ever seen. The result was hours of bizarre, ghostly activity captured for the first time on videotape. It's happening here, somewhere in America's heartland. The family has asked that we not say exactly where they live, but it's a town like any other where people work, raise a family, and are laid to rest. There, however, the similarity ends. We were told at least one soul here is not at rest, and that her spirit is trapped inside this house. Spirit, ghost, entity. It has many names, and many ways of making its presence known. The family here fears ridicule and persecution. They've asked us not to use their real names, so we'll refer to them as Pamela, Jeff, and their infant son, Donnie. The first signs of something out of the ordinary began when the young couple moved into this 128-year-old house in January of 1993. At first, the haunting activity was subtle and only seemed to be occurring in one small bedroom at the top of the stairs. Pamela and Jeff had a weird, indefinable feeling that something wasn't quite right. Their usually docile dog started feeling it too. She would whimper and cry any time she came near that room. They now feel the persistent barking was a warning they did not heed. As these home videos show, after the birth of their son, Donnie, the bedroom was converted into a nursery. It was here that an entity began to show itself. Pictures of newborn Donnie were marred by strange blocks of free-floating light and shadow. It happened on roll after roll of film and with 2 different cameras. Even more bizarre was the discovery, when this photo was enlarged, that the crayon on the tablet seems to be held in space by an invisible hand. We tried to recreate this photo with wires, pins, and other tricks. We could not. Through a friend, Pamela contacted psychic Barbara Connor, who believes she can communicate with entities from the past.
I was thinking it was a little crowded.
Yeah, she doesn't like it. She says, too many people are in here, get out.
Within a few minutes of her arrival, Barbara began to communicate with what she felt was the spirit of a child. She said the spirit was that of a little girl named Sally, and that she was there to protect the baby Donnie. Barbara believes that the blurs and streaks in dozens of family photographs are actually a physical manifestation of Sally. We wanted Edson Williams, a trick photography expert, to give us his opinion. Sightings obtained the original negatives and photos, and with the family's approval, had them analyzed to determine if anything in the camera or in the film processing could account for the bizarre images.
One photo that really caught my attention was the Christmas photos. The highlights that ran through the image, they're localized, they're not throughout the image, they're in very small regions, and they're running at different angles. Initially, I tried to recreate this simply with a few quick tricks, and unfortunately, they did not work for me. It'd be a very difficult shot to recreate. Another photograph I found very interesting was one that had a small child's toy in a corner with a blue ghosting image around it. Initially, I thought it possibly cut out a blue gel, which would be a blue plastic, clear plastic, and a wiggle that in front of the camera could recreate it. But the density differences were too varied. Photographic evidence is something I always question because my job is to create illusions photographically. But these several pictures that I was shown are very difficult to explain.
The family believes this is evidence of Sally, the lost spirit of a long-dead girl. And like a macabre version of Mother Goose, when Sally is good, she's very, very good, and when she's bad, she's horrid. According to Pamela and Jeff, this is Sally's handiwork. They say a swirling, frigid aura announces her presence. Then Sally leaves welting, bloody slashes on Jeff's bare flesh, as documented in these photos and verified by many eyewitnesses. So far, Jeff has been the only victim. When our Sightings crew arrived to investigate, the first step was to videotape interviews with Pamela and Jeff. These interviews were important, but the director had given strict orders to immediately turn the cameras on any strange activity as soon as it occurred. It was during this first interview session that the entity made its presence known. Jeff and Donnie watched from just behind the camera as Pamela was being interviewed first.
We had gone over to my in-laws. We had come home. Shortly afterwards, we found all the stuffed animals that were in
As Pamela described a previous encounter with Sally, noise from a backyard chainsaw started to interfere with the videotaping.
The windows were closed. The cats were downstairs with us. Just nothing natural could happen.
As Pamela waited for the noise to stop, Jeff called out.
That's all right. Is it going?
She don't like everybody here, did.
Sally, stop it.
What? How did that happen?
You don't know.
Sally?
Go on in, walk in there. Walk in there. And get a towel and clean it off his arm. Stay on the... What's going on?
I gotta get my senses back.
She's right here, because it is freezing right here.
It is freezing.
I feel it.
All you do is you feel this cold go through you. That's how I just had to
Sally?
look back.
Okay,
I feel it.
Sally,
You feel
we're
how
gonna
cold it
stop. Sally, we're gonna stop until Barbara comes here, okay? When Barbara comes,
I feel the cold air
she'll
right
talk
here.
to you and let you know.
Right here. I can feel it. We're interviewing. It's hot. We've turned the air conditioner off for sound purposes, but it is cold right here in this part of the room. And the air conditioner is off.
I just felt
Look at that.
cold
Look at
just
that.
like freeze me over here.
This is the same thing that occurs when
Holy
she's scratched his face,
Holy.
or he's had scratches across his forehead or down his arm. She does this when she's upset.
I'm still shaking.
I know, my heart's pounding too. I
I'm
think
a little excited. I gotta tell you.
well, we've had a little excitement this morning.
Oh, really? Already?
Yeah.
The family asked psychic Barbara Connor to join our investigation. They felt Barbara could communicate with Sally and help calm her down.
Feeling good? What's this?
That's what she just did.
She just did this?
Yeah.
I feel her now. Yeah, she's here. Hi, Sally. What's going on? Excitement. She's excited. It's really cold. Okay, it's okay. Yeah, she's excited about all this.
Is she
Yeah,
liking it, or
yeah.
is she upset?
She's upset. She's a little upset. What's going on here? She says, I like it, but it's scary.
Yeah, well, honey, it's scary for us, too.
Yeah,
We've
that's
never
what
done anything like this.
That's what I told her. I said, no, it's everybody's uptight with this.
She scares the living daylights out of me, to be honest with you. I'm gonna add this right now. She's right here with me right now. I'm feeling something really cold shoot around my stomach.
We asked Jeff to describe what he was feeling. He looked like he was in pain, but Jeff didn't respond. For a moment, he couldn't speak.
I've lost my breath, I'm sorry. Today, in the chair, as you guys were interviewing my wife, I was sitting in the rocking chair with my son. He was playing with a little toy, and we were tilted a little forward so we could watch the interview through the doorway. When this cold just shot through my arm, and it's done it before, I knew the feeling. It's just, I can't explain the cold. It freezes your bones, everything. And as I looked towards my arm, I had 4 scratches that were bleeding as I looked at them. And it's really frightening. Yeah. She's just went right through my midsection.
Oh, my God. Look. Look. Oh, look. They're forming.
Can't come up with an explanation why she does
Look,
this.
it's forming right there.
She tends to do this to me because I upset her sometimes. And she wants to be noticed, I think, today.
This family has asked to remain anonymous. What's happening inside their house is so bizarre, they don't want to become just another media event. When we return, our investigation continues.
Coming up next on Sightings.
And this is like the most profound thing I've ever seen in all parapsychology. This is fact, and you have it on tape.
In the years we've been doing this program, our ghost investigations have been time-consuming and often frustrating. But the current case in the Midwest is clearly different. From day one, the crew was experiencing unexplainable haunting phenomena, and they were getting it on tape.
It's a sensation like the air conditioning on your automobile. If you put your hand up right in front of the vent, you feel the air blowing. Real fresh. But if you move your hand away from the vent, it goes away. Oh.
I think she's messing with you.
It is swirling.
Our sightings director is Greg Cook. He was excited about the presence of strange cold spots that would come and go without warning or reason.
It is so cold right here.
Oh, it's this electrical charge you're talking about.
Did you feel it?
Did you feel it?
Yeah, it's like a mild electrical shock.
Yeah.
Right there.
Oh, my God.
Can you feel it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Jesus.
Electrical shock. Right here.
That is unbelievable.
Paranormal investigator Howard Heim brought in instruments that could measure the cold and magnetic energy everyone in the house was feeling. Howard Heim has documented over 100 reported hauntings throughout the world. Strangely enough, as soon as he arrived, our video camera began to malfunction. There was breakup, usually a sign that there's been some kind of electrical interference.
Can you feel this? Come here.
No, I cannot.
As soon as you came over, it went this way.
You can feel it? Well, let's take a few minutes. It's 77.7 degrees Fahrenheit in here. This dropped a point. It did instantly drop point from 0.7 to 0.6.
Now wait right there.
It just dropped another point. It's dropping again. 0.4. Dropped again. It's 0.3 now. And it dropped a point again. It's now 0.2. It keeps getting cooler in this room.
It's like a narrow shaft of cool air.
Mm-hmm. It is.
And my hand is, I can feel it coming down, but his hand's on top of mine. And if you put yours underneath, you should be able to feel it as well, even though... Ooh,
I actually feel it slightly cooler.
Feel that?
Yeah.
Blowing around?
Yeah. I actually feel like a small circumference about 4 inches in diameter coming straight down.
And our hands are blocking the airflow.
That was interesting. It was almost like a narrow thing hitting the back of my hand.
The instruments picked up both an increase in electromagnetism and a measurable decrease in room temperature. But no instrument could explain what happened just a few minutes later in the kitchen. Pamela was showing Barbara a teddy bear that had been inexplicably burned. Later, in the same spot, Sally seemed to be telling Pamela she was the fire starter.
My husband found this kind of half fresh, half dead flower singed around the edges.
Is it possible that Sally burned the rose in reaction to Pamela's discussion about the teddy bear? We went back to that earlier moment on our raw field tapes. The rose was there on the windowsill, but at this point it appeared fully red with undamaged petals. Who could have burned that rose without anyone seeing it or smelling it in the space of less than 5 minutes?
That's incredible. The interior leaves are burnt around the edges with no damage to the overlapping leaves, as if they were individually burned and then assembled. That is bizarre. You can't duplicate this. This cannot be duplicated. Well, let's go show me where she lives, so to speak here, and
This used to be his cradle, but we've put it in here as like a gathering for her toys, things that she's allowed to play with and not get into trouble for.
In the bedroom that had been the source of so much haunting activity, electromagnetic field readings were normal at first. Then Pamela felt that Sally had arrived.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Right here.
The magnetometer needle jumped.
Look at it.
we're 2.5. Now we're at 3. I can actually feel it just between my fingers. It's very light, but it is noticeable. And still maintaining.
During our investigation, everyone who entered the house felt an eerie, ghostly presence. But only Jeff claims to have actually seen a manifestation of Sally.
I walked over to the kitchen cabinet, opened the cabinet and got out a glass, poured my orange juice. Started to take a drink, and as I turned around, there was a little girl standing not more than 3 foot away from me, just as plain as you are to me now. Just standing there with this plain look on her face, just looking at me like she was curious about me too. And I can't explain the feeling I got. I dropped the glass shattered, and as I dropped the glass, she was gone just as quick as she was there. It was just gone.
Sally never materialized for our low-light intensity viewing equipment, but our normal video camera did pick up perhaps the most stunning paranormal event ever recorded on tape. It came without warning, as our cameras were in the process of recording one final scene.
Sally, can you see through it? Is it working?
Yeah.
And
And go up.
Top. Very slowly, yeah.
Look, one's starting to bleed.
There's a whole new...
You getting a new one?
Oh, look at that. Look at that. Oh, look at that.
Oh my God.
It actually
I knew
just,
she was around.
It's this nice dark one where it's bleeding. Just look at that.
Look at the
Look
bottom
at
of
that.
It's standing on down.
Look
There
at
it
the
is.
bottom. Look at it.
It's absolutely
We trained our cameras on Jeff's torso for 9 minutes, the entire duration of the bizarre event. What first appeared as scratches eventually grew into long, thick, bleeding welts. No one had a logical explanation.
I've been scratched, to be honest with you.
It just simply appeared. You lifted your shirt, the same scratches were there. You put this to your stomach, and all of a sudden blood started to ooze out. And this is like the most profound thing I've ever seen in all parapsychology. I've seen and felt a few things myself, but it could be suggestion. But this is not suggestion at all. This is fact, and you have it on tape.
When our crew returned from the Midwest, the excitement in the Sightings offices was palpable.
Our videotape has become the object of intense interest for paranormal investigators, like Kerry Gaynor. We ask him to view the tape, making careful examination in side-by-side views of the before and after frames taken while this bleeding scratch welted up before our camera.
When we return, I'll be joined by Field Director Greg Cook and world-renowned parapsychologist Kerry Gaynor as we continue this remarkable investigation. Joining me now is Sightings Director Greg Cook. Greg supervised the crew on site during our investigation. Greg, you've earned your stripes in the news business for a long time. You've worked for 60 Minutes and elsewhere. Has anything like this ever happened before?
Never, Tim. The frightening thing was that it happened early in the day at 10 o'clock in the morning with all of the movie lights on and all the people through the house. It wasn't like what you would presume you see when you see a ghost. It didn't happen late at night under candlelight and that sort of thing. It was in the confusion of the crew arriving and in daylight hours, and everybody felt it. That was the frightening thing. You actually felt this thing happen. Everybody in the crew did.
We saw the rose and we saw the marks on the man's body. There was another incident that you didn't have, the bib?
There was a shot that I thought might be interesting if she were to walk in carrying the baby, and the baby at the time was sitting in the high chair. So I said, let's just, move to this area of the room, walk in, and we'll begin. She took off the baby's bib, took 10 steps to the left, and walked back in again and went to put the bib on. It would not attach. The plastic cap beneath the bib had burned in the 20 seconds it took for her to walk away from the bib. I immediately smelled it and could smell a sense of charcoal and burning, but the plastic had melted, but there was no fire damage to top or bottom of that piece of plastic. And that occurred right while we were there, and it was a sort of a frightening moment. That did occur at night, and I felt a little uneasy about staying there.
Well, you're a skeptical guy. Couldn't all of this have been faked somehow?
No. If we'd gone there and perhaps what you saw was cutting and bleeding, you might question, how did that happen? The fact was that everybody who came, film members, other friends of theirs, neighbors who had been there for the time of the taping, everybody in the room felt the same sensation of cold. I think there's a lot of interpretation there. But I do know that what I felt and what everybody else in our crew felt was a definite electrical energy. It moved around the room. You could follow it around the room. It wasn't something that we just kind of said, well, we thought it was there. It was there.
Well, Greg, since you filed this report, Sightings has contacted parapsychologist Kerry Gaynor and asked for his insight. Mr. Gaynor is best known for his investigations of the now famous entity and poltergeist cases. Mr. Gaynor, you've had a chance to look at our field videotapes. What do you think?
Well, I think it's very exciting. The nice thing for me as a researcher is that the cameraman held the camera on the blood spot from the moment it started to the moment the welts appeared. He never cut away. So we have about 8 or 9 minutes of raw footage, which I've examined, and it's very interesting. It's very exciting. I spent a great deal of time trying to determine which cases are worth investigating and which are not, and I think this one is.
What are some of the more common signs of a haunting, things that show up here as well as other cases you've looked into?
Well, one of the things I was intrigued by were the bears that were found in the middle of the room. And they went out of the room and they put the bears back. They came back and one bear was found in the middle of the room.
Like poltergeist?
That's right. This suggests a very playful kind of experience. And we come across this a lot. People take their clothes out, they get up the next morning, they're back in the drawer again. Just playful type phenomena.
You think this family is at threat, in danger?
Well, I think there are different types of things going on in this house. I wouldn't think there's one explanation. The bears appearing in the middle of the room is a playful type poltergeist experience, but the scratches on the man's stomach and his arm, and according to his testimony, he was yanked out of his bed. Those are pretty terrifying experiences, and yes, I'm a little concerned about that.
We'll continue to look into it. Parapsychologist Kerry Gaynor, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And I will be going back to the Midwest along with Greg Cook and our entire investigative team to see what more we can learn about the Heartland ghost. We'll bring you our findings as soon as possible.